Guardan Savi Lama Rinpoche, Talk of your Pamir Danjuni, Quatin Chimbur Goni, Gives on the Coson to give Shinji Lata, so Majuja and Jif for Trana. Till some Sargi Kinjing on yer on some Churkum on some Tonza Bar, Savi Lama Namla. Sora and the Jipasam Jisho, Chitandi, Nyamdar Tobi, Shanla Pandar, Sanchin Manaver Tambi, Gyamtsen, Lord to Gyamtsen, Javla, Sora and the two airmen, Jerver, Shinji, Lo, only Sharo, Serni, Yankams, and Jahora to Egyptian Lava. Jingme Panso Javla Surande, Gonjir Topan Power, Shingi, Yondan Sargi Kandam Yamnaya, Katin Sargi Kanle Lapim Kun, Savlamar Namla Surande, Zanglong Jipi Jantrum Chonita, Tujelong Tonyam Bim Tangava, Notre Dame Vipi Terjuki. Corday Churker to be a Honchin ba, Jimmy was a Javla, Sora, and Kivia Kandola, Gypsy there. Jimmy was a young to Teramzo, Oxer Honchin Namgi Namjerava, and Jimmy Lami Javla, Sora, and the Papa Jitan was you to James, and Rota Pete Honjo. Just a Tonda Honchin Namjerava, and Jimmy Jarim Yago Sora. Jarva Chipo Javala, not the Chibi wants you car. Some Pamcho Dungra Rantumo, Jimmy Chuki, one Bosora, the Tomava Chip, the Sonia Puton, Mancher Manor, Monsum Donza. Say Lama, the Chuji, Tambini Javala, Sora, the Sanjuk Jungle Monjer Obamala. Gansan Churki Tomba, Lonchen and Bar, Murdono Zoba Linde, Yermenaka, one Bosora, the Donia Mambara Chanchivega, Shatutambi, Gamson Sandaba. Stavi Lami Javla Sora, the Koson to give Shingi Lapta, Gipasan Gisho, Sigtan, and Yamton Topition, Panda. Sanchin Manaver Tambi, Gyamtsen, North to Gyamtsen Javla, Sora, to your Yerman, Jerver, Shinji, Showman Juji, Anji, Putrana, Tilsum Sargi, Kingingo, Ransom Churkum, Monsum Tonza, Savla Namla, Sora, the Duck of Yotuba, Lil Dantana, Savla Chaldo Durjin. Sholir number Jarva Chichinra, Tinra Conor Doso and Jerva. I got all a down of Junker, Jum Damakan. Droakin Jitanam Chitsamba, Tamchirkat of the Chutan, Namka, Yambisim Jentam Chiki Tonta, Yang Tabarazopa Sangi. Go ye hear Natan Damba, Chapter Durjin, Chanchin Bukoma, Kutin, Daniel La, Topper of Sha, the Topper of Chita. Dinny Pensis Jamone for Dinny Data when Susili Pusa, Dinny Dan Chanton Chu Shang, Wushan Shensen, Miafa, Bechin Wan Jian, so he was in Javan the shooter. Yuanji Rola Zhenshi, Daja Fa Wushan Shushan the Putition.
Everybody raised bodhicitta to benefit countless suffering sentient beings. And today we start the teachings of Atisha and Atisha's teachings to his 3 heart sons. And in these teachings, he teaches a lot of guidance with respect to practice. And he teaches with respect to his experience with respect to practice. And when we receive these teachings with respect to theory, it would appear that there is nothing that we wouldn't understand in these teachings. However, the content of these teachings is very, very profound. And before, when having His Holiness Jigme Phuntsok and His Holiness Lama Achuk Rinpoche present, and also with respect to Tibetan Buddhism as a whole, And many current day masters will use these teachings of Atisha as a benchmark to check their actions, their realizations, their practice in all respects, to check that their practice within their mind stream is correct compared to this benchmark of Atisha's teachings. And as we are all aware, all of the great teachers in the rest of the world, the whole of the West, Asia, although they are teaching all of these different teachings with respect to their own respective lineages, the teaching that is common amongst all of them are these teachings of Atisha. All the lineages are busy understanding, learning, and practicing these teachings of Atisha. And this includes the Kadampa, the Kaja, the Galupa, Nyingma, and these teachings of Atisha are very profound. And why? Because the Kadampa lineage is known for having many practitioners. From lineage masters, for instance, Marpa, Milarepa, Tilopa, these great masters. And for many of them, they spent their whole life practicing. And many of us are aware of the biography of Milarepa, and he didn't spend his whole life in practice. However, when he did start practicing, he was building the stupa for Marpa, and at the same time he was practicing. And within these teachings of the Kadampa lineage, we have these teachings of Atisha, and he is teaching to 3 of his heart sons. And these 3 heart sons, the one was Geshe Gudung, Zunri Yundrung. And what is a Geshe? A Geshe is a title given to somebody who has very high levels of understanding and learning in Tibetan Buddhism. And the second name was Ngondun Tawa Lapchen Sherab. And the third one was Tompa. And all of these 3 students are the students of Atisha. And every great master has students who are the embodiment of the enlightened body, speech, and mind. And so they're mentioning over here these 3 students that are the heart sons of Atisha. And he's busy teaching them these very profound teachings. And when we look at these pith instructions from a theoretical point of view, it doesn't seem very profound or very special, or a place where we don't understand. And why? Because these are pith instructions pointing directly at the mind. And when I think about the teachings of His Holiness Lama Achuk Rinpoche, and when I read his biography, and then receiving these teachings of Atisha, really I feel that the teachings of His Holiness Lama Achuk Rinpoche are very much like that of Atisha. And it could very well be the case that His Holiness Lama Achuk Rinpoche is the reincarnation of Atisha. And these great masters, they have all sorts of different ways to benefit sentient beings. However, within the minds of normal people, they might not realize this. There are great masters who really traveled around like beggars, like that of Patrul Rinpoche. And I'm sure there are similar great teachers within Chinese Buddhism as well. However, many people have the impression that great masters should be those masters sitting on these high elevated Dharma thrones, looking so great. These are the ones that should be teaching us the Dharma. This must be a really great practitioner, a realized practitioner. On the other hand, if the great master is dressed like a beggar on the side of the road, to the normal person, they wouldn't pay much notice. They wouldn't realize that this is a great master. And this is also because current day people place so much emphasis, too much emphasis, on the external appearance. He must look good, he must be dressed well, he must be in this position, he must be like this, he must be like that. He's a great abbot or a living Buddha or a has a very big monastery, or has a big title like Kempo. But we might not notice the great master if they're not dressed like this, then they might be right by our side. For instance, there was the example within the time of Patrul Rinpoche, and there was one monk. The monk didn't know what Patrul Rinpoche looked like. He didn't realize that right next to him, who he was talking to, was Patrul Rinpoche. And he mentioned to Patrul Rinpoche, let me teach you these very auspicious teachings of Patrul Rinpoche that were taught to him by his teacher, Jigme Gyalwai Nyugu. And these teachings of Jigme Gyalwai Nyugu are very, very auspicious, and they were recorded by Patrul Rinpoche. And this monk said to Patrul Rinpoche, let me teach them to you. So Patrul Rinpoche didn't say anything. He thought, well, this monk's aspiration is very pure. And so Patrul Rinpoche agreed, okay, teach them to me. And of course, Patrul Rinpoche didn't look like any great master. So the monk really didn't know who he was. Patrul Rinpoche just looked like a normal person. He wasn't wearing monastic robes. And the monk was teaching Patrul Rinpoche, and sometimes he was teaching some places incorrectly. However, Patrul Rinpoche just listened patiently. Patrul Rinpoche allowed the monk to continue. He really felt that the aspiration of the monk was very pure. And so there are stories like this in these teachings. And great masters like Patrul Rinpoche, they won't go and propagate their merit. They won't go around telling everybody how great a practitioner they are. These great bodhisattvas, they hide their great abilities, and they very quietly go about helping sentient beings. And in this case, most normal people won't realize their ability, their realization. These great bodhisattvas, they may have this great aspiration to come to this world and benefit sentient beings. However, for normal people, some of them might realize it. For others, we might not know at all that they are great realizers. Irrespective, in our practice, visualize everything as the five perfections. The practice of the great perfection is different to the exoteric practices. They use a lot of analytics and analysis to come to the conclusions, the result, the meaning, to understand wisdom emptiness with respect to all external phenomena, and then to understand it with respect to our inner being. However, the great perfection is not like this. In the great perfection, we have examples, for instance, Gyalwai Dorji, who taught his students through the three types of transmissions. The first is through the great blessing of the teacher and in union with the belief of the student. And through this blessing, the student attains realization. The second is the two types of transmission. First, by oral transmission from the teacher to the student. The second is through mudras. And the third is mind-to-mind transmission. And in this way, through the blessing of the teacher, the student can attain realization. And what is the best way for us to practice now is to maintain a pure mind, to observe the five perfections. Our Guru is perfect, the Dharma we're receiving is perfect, the place is perfect, our fellow students are perfect, and the time is perfect. Even although at the moment, naturally, we don't have the state of realization. However, in the great perfection, if we maintain this perception, then we receive this blessing. And this blessing is different. And this is important. One, we must observe the five perfections. The second is we must maintain respect. If somebody says that mountain is Padmasambhava, you say, yes, 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 it is. Or if somebody says that stone is the reincarnation of our Guru, then we must have this belief. If we have this belief, and then we go and look at the stone and we say, oh, look, really, there are all the appearances on the stone. Before, when we used to go to the mountains, when His Holiness Lama Achuk Rinpoche was extracting termite treasures, and to us, when we saw mountains, they were mountains. When we saw stones, they were stones. However, in the eyes of His Holiness Lama Achuk Rinpoche, it was different. He said, look here, look on the stone. There's a person's face and there's their eye. And then we would look and look again, and then we say, oh, yes, really, really, this is the case. It is like this. Similarly as well, when we look at the clouds, when our mind is impure, all we see is a cloud. However, when our mind becomes pure, really we see, oh yes, there are these appearances. That cloud really is our guru. And if our mind has decided that it is like this, then that is the way it is. Wow, look, you can see the face, there's an eye, there's his nose and his mouth. Really, it is our guru. And the more and more we look with this cherishing, we say, look, yes, really, it was always our guru. Having a pure mind is very, very important. And in this way, gradually you will start seeing these pure appearances. In reality, in the state of the realization of great perfection, everything, this external world, is pure. Everything is the pure appearance of the mandala. However, we've never really looked carefully enough, observed carefully enough, or we haven't thought about it carefully enough. Really, normal people, sometimes their way of thinking is so gross. Gross to what degree? That if you give rise to a random thought, for instance, a thought of attachment arises, and it then becomes, to the extent that it becomes an action of our body, speech, and mind. And the reality is, from the arising of the first thought of attachment to when it becomes an action, there are countless numbers of thoughts that have been interlinked. And we didn't even have the faintest idea that so many thoughts had interlinked. We didn't notice at all. Sometimes we get angry. We don't even notice the process of getting angry. Then suddenly we realize we're angry. We say, I shouldn't be angry. Why am I angry? You're aware of the gross thought of anger. However, you haven't been aware at all of all of the subtle thoughts that are interlinked. From the first subtle thought, all of the interlinked thoughts, until that gross thought became an action. There have been hundreds, thousands of subtle thoughts that have been interlinked to get to that stage. If there wasn't that continuity of these thoughts, there's no way the strength of that anger would be so strong. For instance, when we were boiling water, we put it on the fire, we turn up the heat, and then we look, we say, oh, the water has boiled, but we haven't observed the whole process it took to get that water to boil. The water gradually gets warmer, warmer, hotter until it boils. But we just look and we say, oh, the water has boiled. Or the other thought that we have is that, oh, the water hasn't boiled yet. That's the only two thoughts we have. However, we haven't considered the whole process of boiling the water. We may have a thought of desire, however, we have no idea when that thought first arose. We might even notice, oh, I had a thought of desire. It had already passed when we realized that we had the thought. And we've probably already acted on it. The first motivation of greed that has arisen, we don't even notice. But then it keeps on interlinking and carrying on. And then eventually it becomes an action. And from the beginning of the first thought until it became an action, there have been countless numbers of thoughts that have already occurred. If we don't have a very profound state of observation, then in this state, is it possible that we won't even realize these thoughts have arisen? And so the powers of observation of normal people are very weak. In addition, they don't have any forbearance. They're not prepared to continue observing and contemplating and meditating in this way. They do it once or twice and then they don't consider it anymore. You might think, oh, I've given rise to this afflictive emotion. Go home and sit for a minute, observe. In that minute, how many thoughts of afflictive emotions have arisen? Have a look at your watch, at your clock tonight. How many thoughts have arisen within a minute? Then observe in the same way, from 1 minute to 2 minutes. Have a look at the difference. What is the power, the energy of those thoughts become? The difference between 0 to 1 minute and from 1 minute to 2 minutes. Then have a look from 2 minutes to 3 minutes. How strong has the power of that thought become? Continue 3 to 4 minutes, 4 minutes to 5 minutes. And within that time, almost for sure, you'll have some kind of feeling experience within your body. And this applies to all sorts of attachment, aversion, and ignorance. Go home tonight, look at your clock, look at your watch, sit there. In this time, how many thoughts have arisen? 1 minute, 2 minutes, 3 minutes, 4 minutes, 5 minutes. Don't even consider the thought, oh, I mustn't have arising thoughts. First, don't think like this. First, have a look and see how many thoughts you have. And in this time, what happens to the strength, the power of these thoughts over time. And in the process of doing this exercise, if you're not able to observe the thoughts that are arising, then there's no way you're going to be able to control your karma and your afflictive emotions. The problem with our practice is that our foundation and our quality of our practice is insufficient. You just want to sit there and abide in calm abiding. And you can do this, you say, I can do this for half an hour, up to 2 hours. So what's so special about that? Once we're used to it, sleeping is also a state of calm abiding. And you can stay in this state of mind for 8 hours. And in those 8 hours, how many of you remember what dreams you had? You have no idea. Went to sleep at night, woke up in the morning, that's what happened. But you have no recollection. The clarity in your dreams is very important. If you don't understand how these thoughts of yours link from one to the other, you will never be able to cut through this samsara of yours or this karma of yours. When it becomes actions, you've got no way to control it, because then its energy, its power has already exceeded your meditative concentration, exceeded your wisdom. Its energy has now become greater than your ability to stop it. Just like if somebody wants you to carry 150 kilograms, you're not able to, are you? Because it's too heavy for your ability. When we investigate things that includes our mind, we don't investigate sufficiently. When you return to where you're living, look at the alarm clock. Your practice at the moment of tranquil mind is insufficient. When I say to you bodhicitta, renunciation, belief, this belief I'm talking about is not a thought. What I'm talking about over here, this belief is an energy within your mind. Similarly for bodhicitta. And this energy, you can definitely feel it, experience it. And how long are you able to maintain this state of mind, this energy? This is also very important. And the reality is, if you're not able to maintain this energy, this state of mind for a long time, then you aren't in a state of great perfection. What we talk about being in a state without mindfulness or awareness, or in a state of tranquility, or in a state of clarity, this you're able to maintain for a long time. This is not difficult. A Mahomet can maintain a state of mind for 3 months in retreat during the winter. Many sentient beings are able to do this. This is just a habit. Where is it that the meditation in Buddhism, especially that of great perfection, is different? It is in the union of compassion and wisdom, in the unity of shamatha and vipassana. With respect to shamatha, all religions, never mind religions, many people who don't even have religion are practicing shamatha. However, in great perfection, what we have as well is the ultimate vipassana also. And within this unity of vipassana and shamatha, there is this meditative concentration, this wisdom, which is able to maintain this foundation of virtue, of compassion, and able to maintain it for a long time. Think about it for yourself. You can maintain this mind of tranquility, calm abiding for half an hour, this experience, this feeling of compassion for sentient beings. How long can you maintain that for? Observe this, and then you will really know the state of your practice. This is the belief in our Guru that naturally arises within our mind stream. It's not something that we talk about or just think about. We're not talking about thinking or contemplating this compassion towards sentient beings. Anybody can think about it from morning till night. What we're talking about is this experience, this feeling of great compassion. How long can you maintain this state of mind, this wisdom, this compassion within your meditation? Is this something that the other religions is able to do? You have this feeling of boundless compassion towards sentient beings. If you don't have this, then your realization is incorrect. If you don't have this experience, the state within your body, speech, and mind, then it isn't the correct state of realization. Then this is just a state that is realized through thinking about it and things that you talk about, but it's not an actual realization within your mind. And it has no great quality and no great result. What do we mean by this state, this feeling, this experience? Is, for instance, when you have a headache, you know you've got that feeling of a sore head. What do we mean by no experience or no feeling? Is when somebody comes and says, or whispers into your ear and says, headache, headache, headache. However, you don't have a headache, you have no feeling of what this headache feels like. And this is what happens with some people that say they're practicing the great perfection. It's just really words. They say great compassion, they say great belief. However, they have no feeling within their mind stream. What do we mean this great feeling? Is, for instance, if some family member has to pass away or has an accident, and then you have those tears and that sadness. Similarly, that feeling of compassion coming from the depths of your mind. How long can you maintain this state of mind for? This is the feeling, the experience I'm talking about, that you can feel it within your body. It's not just the repetition of thoughts or the interlinking of thoughts. Everybody has this ability. And in these respects, Atisha's teachings teach very profoundly. In the biography of His Holiness Lama Achuk Rinpoche, he talks about this in great detail. Sometimes when we have classes and there are many students, maybe we don't teach this in enough detail. So I want to use this opportunity with these teachings of Atisha to talk about this in more detail and more profoundly. The continuity, the connectivity, the train of thoughts and of karma, and being clear about the causes and conditions of karma. And to teach this in detail, so then when we are practicing, we are very clear on these points as well. In front of you, you see the Guru. What you're hearing is the true Dharma. However, how come is it, after all these years, that you haven't been able to cut through samsara and all of your karma? You don't think this is a problem? I think this is a problem. I think it's a big problem. We might not be enlightened. This I can understand. However, these causes and conditions with samsara, we should already have ended. We have, when we use all of these superficial labels, we say that this is Mahamudra, this is great perfection, this is your teacher, this is my teacher, this is an enlightened teacher. And then we have all of these pictures of all of these teachers around our neck. And then we say, look, this is my teacher, this is your teacher. You've got this picture of your teacher hanging around your neck, and your karma is still so strong. Well, this is going to help. Why don't you put that picture in your mouth and chew it? Isn't that going to be of greater help? Maybe you should swallow it. What's the purpose? Is to end this samsara, this karma within our own mind stream. It's not important how many objects you have externally. If it's such a great help, then I'd give you the statue of Padmasambhava. Hang that around your neck. Can you walk around with this big statue around your neck? Is it going to help? I think you're too attached to these things. In the beginning, it helps. It creates arising causes for new students. It helps them to give rise to cherishing. However, if we're always relying on all of these external objects, are we not practicing some kind of superstition? We have all of these Buddhist symbolic things all around us. Next, what you can do is hang prayer flags around yourself. And then at night, when you want to go to sleep, instead of putting the blanket over you, you just sleep covering yourself with these prayer flags. All our hope and success is projected and established on all of these external objects. Can we do this? Of course, we can do this. However, this is a very basic form of practice. In this way, we give rise to cherishing, and we won't forget our teacher. And in this way, it has use. However, the really true, the ultimate practice, the method, is just as we have mentioned before, is to take the wisdom of Buddhism and the teachings, the guidance of your guru, and understand this whole process of the arising thoughts and the interlinking, the continuity of thoughts, and all of your karma and your afflictive emotions. As I mentioned, you may be able to maintain calm abiding for very long. However, how long are you able to maintain that state of compassion from the depths of your mind and that state of, or that feeling of belief in your guru from the depths of your mind? I reckon the time is much less than you are able to maintain calm abiding. Some people might recognize the true nature of mind. However, this state, many people haven't realized, not even for a moment. You can maybe maintain a state without awareness or calm abiding or clarity for half an hour. However, the state of the foundation of virtue, maybe you'll only maintain for 5 minutes. Because within your meditation, you may have shamatha, but you don't have the effect. This, if I don't teach it, many people have difficulties with this. If I do teach it, it's going to influence some of those disciplined students. And those practicing direct pointing at the mind instructions, maybe I don't need to teach this. It's good to teach this profoundly, because for many people it is just a thought, it is a contemplation, but it isn't actually a realization within their mind. It's not a profound meditative experience, and this is different. If we just had to recognize the true nature of mind, how come is it that we haven't attained enlightenment yet? Some people say, I recognize the true nature of mind, but then why is it that your causes and conditions with samsara haven't been ended? Many people who think they have recognized the true nature of mind, I think you've actually just recognized this clarity state of mind, and many people live in the state of mind. This clarity is the true nature of mind. No, I don't agree. How can just clarity be the true nature of mind? Some people say, I know. Some say, what do you know? They say, in the state of clarity, our eyes are able to see the objects and our ears are still able to hear everything. And the external world still is there. Is this the true nature of mind? This is a state that we give the word hyachang to non-Buddhists. And this is a type of practice that has a state that is quite similar to the practice of that of great perfection. And they live in this state of mind, abiding in a state that doesn't have awareness and alertness. It doesn't matter what state of meditation you are practicing in, you can still hear what's going on in the external world and see what's going on. As long as your 5 senses are normal, functioning properly, your eyes are okay and your ears are okay, then you can hear what's going on outside and you can see what's going on in the world. If this is the realization of the great perfection, I think this is far too easy. I can see this. Whether you're looking at your mind or you're not looking at your mind, you can see anyway. Just naturally, you are continually seeing and hearing. We might be looking at our mind, but what we don't understand is these afflictive emotions of ours, how they arise and their continuity, how they interlink, the train of emotions. Whether we're seeing or not seeing, hearing or not hearing, this is not the problem. The problem is this conceptual continuity, its process and our understanding of this. Its understanding, its contemplation, its wisdom is all flawed. We must be clear about these things. If we don't know the distinction between samsara and nirvana, how can we say that our state of realization is the union of samsara and nirvana, or the union of wisdom and compassion? If that's the case, then the dog outside is in the inseparability of samsara and nirvana. The dog is not sure what samsara and nirvana is. The other day, an akka came to me and said, I think that I can't distinguish the difference between samsara and nirvana. Is this that I'm in the state of great perfection? And Rinpoche said, maybe it is. Maybe your realization is the same as the dog outside. They said, huh? What do you mean? Rinpoche said, the dog outside also can't distinguish the difference between samsara and nirvana. Really, think about it. What's the difference? When you return tonight, your one test is look at your clock and within a minute see how many random thoughts arise and pass by. And when you're doing this, don't deliberately change your state of mind. It's just your normal state of mind. Watch those thoughts from arising to ceasing and the whole process that this happens in. How long are those thoughts? Because what I notice with many people is the way that this conceptual mind of ours interlinks all of these thoughts, or there's the carrying on of the thoughts. People really don't understand. Everybody's pursuing clarity and emptiness, clarity, luminosity, calm abiding. However, how many people observe their thoughts? The thought from arising to cessation. How many other thoughts accompany this thought? What is the process of these thoughts? What are the changes that are happening? What is the use of these thoughts? If we're not clear about these things, then maybe with a state of practice, we may be pushing down, pressing down our thoughts. And then what happens? Sooner or later, those thoughts will surface. If we don't know this, what is the difference going to be between learning Buddhism and actually practicing Buddhism? We always say calm abiding, calm abiding. What exactly is this calm abiding? How many people are living in this state, in calm abiding, in their normal lives? I believe that you should be looking at your state of your meditation in a much more detail. And before you come to ask questions from your guru, be clear about the state of your practice. Don't come and ask your teacher questions when your practice is half-hearted and you haven't really been applying yourself. However, if you do, then the result you get is half-hearted and is not clear. And people with this type of practice and that is confused, when they request for pith instructions, what do they get? They get a process. They understand the process of the pith instructions. However, we're not pursuing a process, we are pursuing quality. We're not here to pretend, we're not here to do research, we're here to attain enlightenment. And if we're here to attain enlightenment, why are we not taking responsibility for our own practice? Why don't we take responsibility for our own state of realization? There's many people that come to see me to ask questions. When I ask, why are you coming to see me? They say, we want to ask you pith instructions. However, when they come before me, they ask for predictions. Within myself, I'm actually quite angry, but I just control this anger. Actually, my ability to control my anger is very good. My students have offered me many opportunities to practice. Rinpoche was speaking to another teacher recently, and the teacher was saying he sometimes didn't want to teach the Dharma because of some of the students. Rinpoche said, well, you must come and meet some of my students. Then you will really understand. Then you'll really know what transmitting the Dharma is and what accepting and helping students is about. You'll know what we mean by sentient beings. Most of the students are very good. However, there are a few students quite similar to sick people. It's not the majority that may suffer from cancer. There might just be a small number. And so in the process of our practice, with respect to this conceptual mind of ours, and while we are practicing the great perfection, we really need to have patience. I really believe for the majority of you, your patience is really insufficient and your diligence also is insufficient. You practiced very disciplined for 2 weeks and then you stop. And then you practice again and then you stop again. Do you stop completely? No. You wait a while and then you start again. And then for 3 or 4 days, you practice like a crazy person. Don't eat any food, don't sleep, just sitting there looking. And then for a week afterwards, you forget all practice. No meditation, no recitations, no practice at all. from morning till night in a lost state. And then all of a sudden you get anxious and you start practicing again. Or you hear Rinpoche saying, oh, that student is practicing very well. And then you start practicing again, not sleeping, not eating. This really isn't a good way of practicing. In fact, this is just a competition. The state of our practice should be not too tight and not too loose, and really a happy state. Very disciplined, also full of joy. And really applying ourselves, not scattered all over the place. Don't go running all over the place, to this place, to that place. You've run so much, eventually you're exhausted, and then you've got no more energy to run around anymore. You're not improving in the practice. Time has passed, you've become older. Then you come to me and say, oh, great, compassionate teacher, please teach me a pith instruction. What have you done? Spent 10, 15 years? How many shoes have you worn out? How many clothes have you worn out? And at the end of the day, you have nothing. You've been running from this monastery to that monastery, running from here, running to there. And the teachers just watch them running to and fro. At the end of the day, they haven't achieved any practice and they've got nowhere to go. And then they return here and they have to start from the beginning. This is really tiring and hard work. Similarly, for some of us as Tibetan teachers, we're very curious about the places we go to. We haven't been to Chengdu, and then when we're at Chengdu, we think, what's Beijing going to be like? And then what's Shanghai going to be like? We've never had a chance to see these big cities and go and visit them. All we've done is lived in these small villages. The other day, His Holiness Lakshyong Rinpoche was saying that there are some of these akkas over here that haven't even been to Ganza, which is the closest village, for 20 or 30 years. Their minds are also very curious. However, they've never left the monastery. And so just like us as well, when we go to the Han areas and we want to go see this place, we want to see that place, I think this is also a similar habit that we have. And there are quite a few students that do this as well. They're very curious. And they want to go to this monastery, then they want to go to that monastery, they want to see this guru and then that guru. Oh, that monastery is bigger. This one, if you just touch it, you'll attain rainbow body. If you just see it, you'll attain liberation. And then they go over here, go over there, go everywhere, and eventually they have no more money left. And at the end of the day, they didn't have any Dharma realizations. And this is very sad. And then they come back here with nothing to really show for their efforts. And then they become very humble and they don't have any money to spend, so then they become quite disciplined practitioners. And so this is also a process, and we can understand this. And why do I highlight this process? It's because while we're doing this, we lose a lot of our life and a lot of time. It's better that we use all of this time to be resolute. We find one good teacher, and we stay with that teacher and practice diligently. And if we do this, I really don't believe that right now our practice would be in such a sorry state. Our realization wouldn't be low, our ability to contemplate wouldn't be so bad, your understanding would be better, stabilize your belief, follow your teacher, and according to the teachings that you have received. We say in the Han areas and the Tibetan areas, we say this, follow the teachings according to the teachings you received. And if you do this, you'll be very certain about the development and progress of your practice. If you're following according to the teachings, how can you not have improved? In our practice, we need wisdom. Some people's arising causes and their merit is different. Some people, as they start, they meet their root guru. There's a student that is from Jilin, and when Rinpoche was in Europe, the student had seen a photograph of Rinpoche, and they thought, if I dream about Rinpoche, then he must be my root guru. And in their dream, they really did dream of Rinpoche. And they're here today, listening to the teachings. What did they do? The first time that Rinpoche appeared in the dream, they didn't really believe. They said, well, the second time, if I see Rinpoche in my dream, then I know for sure he's my root guru. And that second night, they dreamt of Rinpoche again. And this person wasn't fibbing to me. They've got no reason to fib to me. This person is very honest and very pure. And then they thought, well, let me test it for the third night again. And if I do dream of Rinpoche again, then for sure, this whole life he'll be my root guru. And they dreamt of Rinpoche the third time. And so now they have already finished their 5 preliminaries and are practicing the pith instructions, and really very good students. And they did follow Rinpoche when he came back from Europe after having all of these dreams. And even great masters of the past, His Holiness Jigme Pansok, His Holiness Lama Achuk Rinpoche, also said they had dreams of their teachers. And so if I'm your root guru, there's a very good chance you may dream of me. When Rinpoche was in Larong, he was a very young student. He wasn't a teacher yet, and he heard the name of His Holiness Lama Achuk Rinpoche, and immediately he was filled with belief, even although he had never met His Holiness Lama Achuk Rinpoche. And that night, he dreamt that he had met this old Lama, His Holiness Lama Achuk Rinpoche, and he was wearing a sheep gadang, a very thick one. And Rinpoche dreamt that His Holiness Lama Achuk Rinpoche was sitting on a mountain peak with some students around him. And I went to meet His Holiness Lama Achuk Rinpoche. Remember, this is a dream. And even today, I'm still very clear about the shape of that mountain. It was a very high mountain. And when Rinpoche met His Holiness Lama Achuk Rinpoche, he was full of cherishing. And he remembers that His Holiness Lama Achuk Rinpoche was holding some elastic string. And Rinpoche paid his respects to His Holiness Lama Achuk Rinpoche, and His Holiness Lama Achuk Rinpoche said to Rinpoche, "Take this string, I will hold one end and you hold the other end, and then you run and jump off this peak." And this really took me by surprise, and I asked, "You want me to jump off the cliff, the mountain peak?" And His Holiness Lama Achuk Rinpoche just went, When I got to the cliff, I thought, "Wow, this is so high. It's like the height of flying in an aeroplane. And below is all ocean." When I looked, I couldn't jump with my eyes open, so I closed my eyes and jumped off the cliff, off the peak. And I remember this feeling of jumping, and I felt as if I was going to pass out a few times, because there I was in mid-air. And I tumbled down, and just as I was going to hit the ocean, suddenly I heard His Holiness Lama Achuk Rinpoche saying, "Open your eyes." And as I heard the sound of His Holiness Lama Achuk Rinpoche's voice, I woke up. And when I woke up, I was covered in cold sweat. And after waking up, I remember the state of mind. And then later on, I met His Holiness Lama Achuk Rinpoche in person, and he taught me pith instructions. And in receiving some of these pith instructions, I suddenly remembered this dream that I had, and the state that I had in waking up from that dream was also the same as these pith instructions, a certain stage of practice that His Holiness Lama Achuk Rinpoche was teaching now. And so when the right causes and conditions ripen, we may meet our root guru in our dreams. However, if you're trying to pursue this, I'm not sure that this might happen. It might be a little bit difficult. The other day, a student came to me and said, "I can't find my root guru." So Rinpoche said, "Well, for now, your root guru is Lingwondro, the 5 preliminaries." And why do I say that the 5 preliminaries can be your root guru? By practicing the 5 preliminaries, you can purify your karma and accumulate merit. And we'll have more wisdom, and we'll experience this when our mind is pure. When our mind is all scattered, we definitely don't have this understanding or realization. When we've purified our mind, then we have this feeling, this belief, "Oh yes, this is right." However, if your mind is not pure, you're really not certain about your direction. However, when your mind is scattered, you have no idea who your root guru is, you're confused, don't know if it's the right path, and then naturally you don't feel this improvement of your practice. So when you accumulate merit and you purify your negative karma, wisdom starts to arise. And gradually through this process, then when you meet your guru, you think, "Yes, really, this is my root guru." Then you don't have to run around, "I want to find my root guru. Let me tell everybody." Don't do this. Be silent. When you've got your root guru, quietly carry on. Otherwise, problems arise. Maybe one of your negative friends says as soon as you say something, "That teacher's false." And then all of a sudden, all your belief disappears. Many of the problems you experience, you've caused for yourself. You created these causes and conditions. Quietly follow your root guru and practice, and then you'll avoid many obstacles. Similarly as well, the teacher is not going to say, oh, these are my special students. If the teacher does this, then all of a sudden other people are jealous. And the students don't have to go about saying, you see, this is my root guru. As soon as you do say something, obstacles arise, give rise to afflictive emotions, or suddenly you lose all your belief or you disrupt fellow students' practice. Many problems you brought upon yourself, so when you talk, take notice of what you're saying. Keep pure discipline and diligence, and then you'll get that feeling of improvement, and then wisdom will arise, and through that wisdom you will find the right path, and surely you will succeed. With diligence, practice, and you will realize the attainments, the fruits. In the process of your practice, don't have too much attachment and too much discrimination. And you see this in some of the students. When they have belief, they have so much attachment to their guru. However, when that belief disappears, then they have all sorts of negative things to say. And this is really the wrong view. When you are following your own root guru, maintain the right belief. And if it's not your teacher and you don't have that belief, at least maintain a state of equanimity and of respect. Don't be very happy or really have a lot of belief for one moment, and then very unhappy, have no belief the next moment, like normal worldly people. In their relationships, today we're so happy, let's get married. Tomorrow we don't like each other, let's get divorced. You don't practice Buddhism in this manner. The practice of Buddhism is established on wisdom. And the text today says, often observe your mind. And this is where we teach to for today.